Murder is never a police problem. It never will be. It's a societal problem. And in Jamaica, we have a society where well over 1,000 of our brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, friends and loved ones are murdered by us Jamaicans each year. But what role do the police play in punishing those responsible? And how can policing have the desired chilling effect on rampant criminality to create a society of peace and harmony? I discuss those issues in this, the very, very first installment, Lead Story #1 here on CVM TV. It's gonna be a staple, and I invite you along for the ride. For joining me for this, the first lead story here on CVM TV. It's a 30-minute program that will be a staple in this slot, taking you right into the major news package at 7. My name is George Davis, and as I said just now, it's going to be a fun ride, and I invite you along for all the sights, for all the thrills. There'll be no spills, but for all the engaging conversation that comes with this show. My first guest is the gentleman in charge of the country's crime and security portfolio. He is an avowed Christian. He's a man who has dedicated 4 decades of his life to the Jamaica Constabulary Force. He is Fitz Bailey, the rank of Deputy Commissioner of Police, and he is, of course, a member of the Order of Distinction. DCP Bailey, welcome to the lead story.
Thank you, and good evening.
Yes.
We and your listeners.
Excellent. We have some numbers, and I think it's necessary for us to look at the numbers at the top. Just over a 10-year span, the number of Jamaicans who've been murdered. As I noted, the murders are not committed by the police, so it's not a police problem. People believe that murders are a police problem. So if you look at our graphic from 2013 through to 2023, that 10-year span, 14,700 plus Jamaicans have been murdered over the 10-year stretch. And it begs the question, why is it that Jamaicans kill so many of their own year over year? That's not necessarily a question for you. The question for you is, the team that you lead, with the tools at your disposal, are you in a better position now than ever before in the JCF's history to apprehend those responsible, to put them before a court, and for the law to take its course from there?
All right. What I will say, you rightly put it, that murder is not really a police problem, and the level of violence that we have is a societal problem. There are many rationale that have been given. People have given various theories why people do commit crimes. One of them is that the likelihood of not being caught. What we have done over the past maybe 4 years, we have reduced that opportunity, the likelihood of not being caught. We have utilized several methods. And I want to go back to the era that I have responsibility for, which is crime and security. One of the things that we have applied over the past 4 or so years, is we place a lot of focus on training to ensure that the men and women who work within the portfolio, they are well equipped and well trained to face the challenges of modern crimes.
Yes.
We introduce, for example, that what we call special individuals who were trained as analysts. So within every division, there are 19 geographic divisions. We train over 50 analysts, crime analysts, and each division has at least one. And then within the era, there are 5 eras, geographic eras, and they also benefit from crime analysts.
Yes.
So that provides support for the investigative process, for the detectives that are there. And then when you look at how a person becomes a detective, and it's not something new, but we have placed a lot of focus on that.
Yes.
So there's what you call the introductory course, which is a level 1, where every member who work within the crime portfolio, they have to go through a level 1 training. And then you go to level 2 that qualifies you to become a detective, very intense, more structured, more advanced. And then within the there are some specialist training, depends on where you work. For example, if you work within homicide, like MID, Major Investigation Division,
Yes.
you do specialist training like homicide investigation. Person who work within the fraud squad, they do fraud investigation. People who work within like counterterrorism and organized crime, they do what you call transnational organized crime
Yes.
type training. And then there is gang investigation training. You have the introduction and you have advanced.
Yes.
We also engage in what I call partnership.
Yes.
Our stakeholders. We have various stakeholders, for instance, our international partners. We have very good relationship, so they also provide
Yes.
Excellent training opportunities.
I've given you the space to talk about the training because I think that Jamaicans think that good policing happens just by itself, as if, you know, we're the law and order generation. We watch crime being solved half an hour. Every episode there's a crime solved, a complex crime solved. We don't give respect to our local practitioners and the training they receive to put them in a position to do the prosecutions that you've done. Chance Wilson gang, the Klansman gang, the One Done faction, and the other gangs that the JCF is going after. After the break, I want to ask you about the real returns from this training, this investment in the manpower of the JCF to break the back of gangsterism in Jamaica and the attendant impact on the country's murder situation and also where major crimes are concerned. This is Lead Story. This is Lead Story number 1. We take our very first break. Back with more after this. Welcome back to Lead Story. My name is George Davis. Fitz Bailey is not just a man of great experience as a policeman. He's a highly educated man, a holder of 2 master's degrees, and he also has an associate degree in accounting. So he's a numbers man. He's studied psychology, and he is well suited to the role he plays as the man leading the crime and the security portfolio. I say that, DCP, to say, because I chose this topic and this approach to the interview because I wanted to make it clear that Jamaican police personnel, it's not just in the force, sitting, jump in a car, go to a crime scene, take a statement and try to solve it. They are highly trained, and what we've been seeing in recent times where the busting of the back of the gang control and communities is concerned is as a result of this improved policing that comes through the improved training that the officers are subjected to, are exposed to, and the rigorous courses of study that they must navigate to put themselves in a position to act effectively.
Definitely. I mean, within my portfolio, for example, at headquarters where I'm based, there are 2 attorneys at law. They basically came up in the system and they went and did their training and they contribute quite significantly to the cases that we do. They use their training, their expertise as a person who have been exposed to psychology.
Yes.
I mean, it is vital to what I do, looking at profiling, etc. So it's important, the training that we get. We are not just what I call a fly-by-night set of people. We are well-trained, well-committed, and we are professionals. I will say that all local police can compete with any police anywhere. We have the competence, we have the ability, we have the skills. For you to clear in any year over 700 murders, that is unprecedented.
Which you did in which year?
Last year, I think it was 2023.
Yes.
Over 700 murders were cleared. 2020 or 2022, one of those. This is not any small feat.
Yes.
It takes commitment. I mean, the great United States, I want someone to point to a state that has just over 3 million people, and you have a figure of 700 odd murders.
And speaking of figures, in 2018, gangs accounted for 80% of the murders in Jamaica.
Yes.
I think
it's over 80.
Over 80.
Yes.
I think it dropped to about 67%
it's about
last year.
64.
Let's look at what you said about crime heading into 2024. You said it will be a different year, 2024. We'll be stepping up our activities against gangs, going after them. It doesn't matter where they hide, we are going to find them. Here's the thing. I understand and accept and support the move to go after the gangs with the enhanced investigative capacity of the force. But here's the problem I have. I'm saying that the public remains skeptical about the JCF's investigative capacity and know-how because they're looking and saying, but I don't see any cold cases being solved. I don't see Fitz Bailey coming to host a press conference to say, well, this happened, Tess Thomas, the activist, was murdered in what, 1999? No, nobody in front of a judge for her murder. There are so many high-profile crimes that have happened over time, nobody has been brought out. So there's no evidence for the public to latch on to say, yes, my JCF is peopled by the kind of investigators, well-trained, as Fitz Bailey says, to be able to deliver these results. And I think that would be something that you'd say, well, perhaps the JCF must do better in this area.
Well, put it this way. We have over an average 1,300 murders per year. There's never one year that we have not solved in excess of 500 of those, 600 of those.
And by solve, you mean bring somebody before the court?
Bring someone before the court. Or, I mean, there are instances where you have done all the investigative leads. The person who perpetrated the crime was murdered by their own cronies,
yes.
So you can't really take it any further. Or whether the person was killed in confrontation with the police. So you're talking about over 600 average murder per year. Now, these are cases of varying circumstances, high profile. For me, a case is a case.
Yes.
Whether you are rich, poor, because for me as a police officer, one of the greatest fulfillment and satisfaction is when a victim of crime can get closure to the crime.
Yes.
When a mother or a daughter or lose their loved one.
You know very well that you are not judged by the crimes you solve, unfortunately. It's by the crimes you don't solve. People say, Jasmine Dean has been missing for how many years now? No closure to the family. 14-year-old Tanya Taylor, 2018, raped and murdered. No closure to the family.
But within the same breath, crime is not committed. You see, investigation is not done in a vacuum. The police can't be everywhere at the same time.
Yes.
And so we depend, in many instances, on the public support. We live in a culture where the idea in form of a dead is still real.
Yes.
So people will be aware of crimes. I can tell you this, that maybe 80% of the crimes that are committed, even before we complete the investigation, we have a general idea who might be the perpetrator. But having an idea and intelligence cannot take to court.
Yes.
So we need the evidence.
Yes.
And no matter how we use technology,
yes.
no matter how we use the science, the IC evidence is very critical in our investigative process.
I take that. Did I hear you attempt to say earlier that because of the number of homicides that your teams are investigating annually, there is no breathing room then to pursue a case 20 years old, 25 years old? Is that what you were saying?
But let's look at the case involving Tesha Miller.
Yes.
The murder of the JUTC, Douglas Chambers,
yes.
took place many, many years
yes.
before he was apprehended. That was a cold case. And I could go back to several more. Beachy Stout, that was convicted. There was a previous murder.
The first wife, Marty
murder.
Yes.
He has also been charged on that. That's a cold case. So we focus also on cold cases. Yes. When you look at the gang cases that we have brought, some of them, I mean, think about the history of these gangsters. And we were able to investigate and bring them before the court.
Here's what I can't...
And I want to make a point here, that in previous dispensation, whenever you arrest someone like a Clans gang member, especially any of the top leadership, Spanish Town used to be torn down.
Yes.
Gunshots, bus terminus. We use the pen, not the bullet.
Yes.
And we have brought them to justice without one shot being fired.
Here's what I wanted to reconcile with me before the break. When gangs were responsible for most of the crimes, I could understand why it was difficult to find a perpetrator, because it could be a foot soldier pulling the trigger. But now we say that more murders are domestic in nature, family feud. So why is it more difficult to find someone responsible when families know who the family member who pulled the trigger or who wielded the machete is?
But the big issue,
yes.
George, is if people keep silent, the crime will never be solved.
But do they trust the police enough to not be silent?
I have no doubt.
Do you have that track record?
We have improved the level of trust. And there are many mechanisms in place where people can tell us. I mean, we have a lot of numbers that they can call, and we can do a reverse investigation. If they don't do that, we can take science so far and no more. We do, I mean, one of the things that I need to identify, that we have been using the technology as a part of our support in our investigative strategy.
And on the point of the technology, before we go to the break, would you agree that legislatively and otherwise, the police are now better equipped than ever before in the JCF's long history to solve crime?
I will say yes, we are equipped legislatively. We have gotten some good pieces of legislation. Technology, we have technology, and we are improving on those
And the
technologies.
results we are seeing now bears out this increase, this expansion of the toolkit?
I agree with that, but there's also the old traditional way,
Yes.
the old-time detectives, because sometimes an over-reliance on technology causes us to miss some key elements.
Yes.
So we integrate
Yes.
technology with traditional forms of policing
Let's
and
take the break. This is a Lead Story here on CVM TV. Much more with DCP Fitz Bailey after these. Lead Story back on your screen on CVM TV. My name is George Davis. My guest today is the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of the Crime and Security Portfolio, Fitz Bailey. The police are in a strange position. Every time there's a murder, people say, what are the police doing? What have the police done? As a veteran 4 decades deep in the JCF, do you think that the Jamaican people appreciate how much you do to protect and serve?
I think generally, you know, George, the Jamaican people are very appreciative of what we do. I mean, it's not the people who make the most noises are necessary.
Sometimes it does feel like a thankless job, though, eh?
Yes, as human, but we are professionals, and we expect that people, when you lose someone, you know, you want to have closure, and sometimes when you realize that you're not getting closure, the pain, and we understand that. But one of the things that I want to point out, that what we have within the JCF, and I speak now specifically in terms of my portfolio,
yes.
we have some professional officers
yes.
who go beyond the call of duty. People will not be aware of the many hours, night and day, that we have worked to ensure that justice is done. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we go to work, some of our guys, they are out there from 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock the next morning, and they are back just going around the clock just to ensure that these matters are solved. I mean, irrespective of the training that you get, if you don't have that commitment yes. and understand yes. what you have sworn to be, yes. to serve, protect, because the core function of policing yes. is to serve, protect. There's a little statement we say to patrol by day and night. Yes. And that's what we do to ensure the safety, because that's our constitutional responsibility.
You are a strong man, DCP Bailey, yes. physically. You're what those who only deal in the standard English will say you're a strapping man. My grand would say you're tall and trapped in. Yeah, yes, there you go. Yes. You admitted that you cried at the Daniel Rowe murder. Yeah, that little girl, 8-year-old throat cut. I say that to ask, in your 4 decades as a policeman, do you sense that Jamaicans have gotten more vile in how we commit crimes against each other?
I mean, with the globalization, people are getting everything in their bedroom. They see everything. So that has created some level of callousness on the part of our society. So people become numb to violence. And so we see that being expressed yes. on a regular basis. Yes. And I think we are becoming more violent, and the viciousness in which
so your job becomes harder.
It becomes harder, but this the principle. Yes. Once you apply the principle of investigation, I mean, that case that you reference, we wrapped it up in record time yes. that we got recognition from a number of international yes. media houses, and yes. they commented yes. on the level of professionalism and the analysis that was done for us to have achieved that. So it points to the fact that even though yes. we have the level of violence and viciousness, yes. we are prepared for the job.
You leave us, well, you're due to leave us in September. Your retirement comes. Some people will say, boy, it's come too soon for a man who has served at your level. We know that you are a man of great ambition, but you're a servant of the people and the police first. Were you disappointed that you didn't get the call as the top cop commissioner?
Put it this way. An opportunity presented itself. 4 persons applied, and 1 person came out on top. We are professionals. That there's a mechanism, there's an institution that is tasked with that responsibility to do the selection, and they have spoken. That's history.
And there was no hangover for you to say that you were disappointed?
No, we are professional. This is not the first time I've done it. I've gone for the job.
Yes.
And Dr. Kevin Blake, very decent, very knowledgeable, and we work together as a team.
Yes.
It's a teamwork. I mean, we are professional and we know the task. The task ahead is to serve and to ensure that the people of Jamaica is given quality service. And that's where we're up about. As a matter of fact, I will say this, that my first public engagement after Dr. Blake got the appointment was only at the all officers meeting.
Yes.
And the record will show, as I indicated to every officer, one thing I say that, and I'll say it publicly, that we need to ensure that the competencies that we have within the JCF is maintained. And so we need to target hard the organization so that the people with the competence are given the job to lead the organization.
And from your perspective, no regrets?
No regrets.
Hear you on that. Thank you very much. DCP Fitz Bailey, the man in charge of the crime and security portfolio. So there you have it, folks. The first lead story. My take on the police and policing Jamaica. I'm from a family that was steeped, still is steeped in policing. My father served, my brother served, I have an uncle serving, cousins serving. My cousin was the former deputy commandant of the Island Special Constabulary Force, the ISCF, the Blue Sea Police. I know that theirs is not an easy job. The public can be very unforgiving, uncompromising at times, but we can do more to help. We ought to do more to help. It's easy to criticize the police. It's easy to believe that solving crime is like watching Law & Order SVU, where a major crime is solved every episode. That's not real life. The police need our help. They also need our criticism. They also need our critique. We need to keep them on their toes, to demand more from them, because the JCF now in 2024 is more lavishly resourced than the JCF at any time. And so the results ought to match the investment. They work on the public's behalf. Solving crime is not a police matter. It's a bonanza for us, the Jamaicans, and we have to take the responsibility to help the police along. All right? That's it for Lead Story for today. I wonder what's in the news, my friends. Stephen and Curlin are standing by. Hi, guys. What's up?
Welcome, George. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, among the stories, a look back at the road fatalities during the Easter holiday period.
And we'll also be looking at parental tips to combat cyberbullying.
All right. Well, I'll be your opening act with Relish tomorrow at this time.